Let's delve into the history of pets to learn how humans domesticated animals. Why do we love animals so much? Make yourselves comfortable, dear listeners. Let your breathing become even and calm. Everything that happened during the day will stay behind. Ahead lies only silence, dim light, and a peaceful journey into one of the warmest and kindest stories of humanity. Today, we'll talk about those who have been around for centuries, about the animals that have become friends, companions, and part of the family. Let's remember how this amazing connection between humans and animals began, a story full of trust, warmth, and shared life. Many thousands of years ago, a person sitting by the fire might have noticed a pair of shiny eyes watching from the darkness. It was a wild animal, like a wolf, curious and hungry. And perhaps, at that moment, something important happened. The wolf didn't run away, and the person didn't chase it away. Thus began the first timid friendship, initially cautious, then strong, from which was born the very dog that we now call man's best friend. Perhaps you are now in a room where someone is breathing quietly nearby, a fluffy lump curled up in a ball. Or maybe someone is looking at you from a shelf in a cage or squinting under an aquarium lamp. Animals surround us. We take care of them, and they respond with a silent devotion that is sometimes stronger than any words. This connection is amazing and very ancient. Humanity has not simply subjugated our lesser brothers, but has built a unique relationship with them based on mutual understanding, respect, and even deep affection. Pets have organically woven themselves into the fabric of human existence, sharing triumphs and hardships with us for millennia. They were loyal comrades in hunting and tireless helpers in agriculture, sharing shelter in both modest huts and luxurious palaces, becoming inseparable friends for children, and captured in old photographs that preserve the warmth of family ties. Their contribution is invaluable. They provided assistance in difficult situations, vigilantly guarded our homes, and offered comfort in moments of emotional turmoil. But most importantly, they were simply there, radiating sincerity and tranquility with their presence. In this lecture, we will take a fascinating journey into the past to trace the stages of animal domestication, learn how formidable wolves transformed into devoted dogs, how wild cats, attracted by grain supplies, gradually settled near humans, and then in their homes. We will remember how pigeons served as reliable messengers, and hamsters and guinea pigs became the first playmates for young family members. We will also talk about graceful horses, fluffy rabbits, and even those who silently glide in an aquarium or cheerfully rustle in a cage. However, our focus will be on the phenomenon of kindness, the very kindness that is expressed not in loud words, but in caring and warm gazes, in the soothing silence filled with the feeling of someone's invisible presence. Let this story wrap you in a soft blanket, warming your soul and bringing peace. Let your thoughts become clearer and calmer. And perhaps, as you fall into the embrace of sleep, you will feel that there is always a creature nearby that looks at you with boundless trust, that waits, believes, and is simply there, sharing moments of life with you. Welcome to the wonderful world of living friendship, to the story of how man found faithful companions and stopped feeling alone in the universe. Chapter 1: At the Dawn of Mutual Understanding, Wolves by the Fire. Part 1: The Birth of Trust. Millennia have passed since the night symphony of the earth was filled with wild voices. The roar of predators, the rustling of mysterious creatures in the bushes, and the piercing cries of nocturnal birds created an atmosphere of the primeval world. In those distant times, people, united in tribes, obtained food by hunting, maintained fire, and lived in constant fear of the onset of darkness. The flame of the fire served not only as a source of light, but also as the only protection from the piercing cold and wild animals. Gathered around the fire, people huddled together, told fascinating stories, warmed their frozen hands, and drove away the ominous darkness. It was during these hours, on the border between the inhabited world and the wilderness, that something truly amazing happened. Wolves, those mysterious creatures, approached the human settlement. At first, they kept their distance, cautiously peering from the darkness, attracted by the smell of food, perhaps the leftovers of a meal. Wolves, possessing remarkable intelligence, incredible endurance, and a deep understanding of the laws of the universe, kept watch. They were attracted not only by food, but also by the alluring energy of the fire, the aroma of roasted meat, and the lively sounds not characteristic of the forest silence. Over time, a tacit agreement arose between humans and wolves, based on mutual respect. I will not harm you if you do not touch me. This pact became the cornerstone of the most ancient friendship between different species. No one can say for sure exactly how it happened. However, archaeological finds indicate that humans domesticated dogs long before they began farming. This happened before humans domesticated cows, horses, or cats. Dogs became humanity's first loyal companions. They accompanied people through icy expanses and scorching deserts, helped track mammoths and bears, guarded against dangers, warned of approaching enemies, and actively participated in hunts. Notably, ancient burials have been discovered containing the remains of dogs buried alongside humans, sometimes even adorned like family members. This suggests that dogs were not merely service animals, but true companions who shared all the hardships and joys of life with humans. What prompted a fearsome predator, the wolf, to dare to approach human dwellings without aggression or flight? The answer lies in a simple but profound concept: trust. It is likely that the most patient and least aggressive individuals from the wolf pack were the first to take this risky step. They possessed the restraint to avoid rushing into a desperate attack, instead patiently observing what was happening from the sidelines. People in turn left behind bones, hides, and scraps. The wolves, seizing the opportunity, scavenged these food remains, gradually becoming accustomed to and approaching the human settlement. And soon the glow of the campfire illuminated not only the figures of people, but also the silhouettes of creatures with fluffy tails, sitting at a distance, but not fleeing in fear. Thus, the first building blocks were laid in the foundation of future domestication. Over time, the boldest and most curious wolves began to accompany people in their movements. Initially, they kept a respectful distance, then grew bolder and stayed close, and eventually walked shoulder to shoulder with humans. Friendship, born out of pragmatic considerations, gradually acquired emotional coloring. Humans began to realize that the animal nearby not only disposed of food scraps, but also guarded the camp from unwanted guests. It keenly reacted to every suspicious rustle, raised its head before anyone else, sensing danger. And humans, perhaps for the first time, looked at the wolf differently, not as a potential threat, but as a loyal ally. The wolf, in turn, also underwent changes. Its descendants became more docile, calm, and attentive to humans. Their physical appearance changed. Ears drooped, snout shortened, and behavior became more social and oriented toward interaction with humans. The wolf, transformed into a dog, no longer looked at humans with wariness and suspicion. It longed for encounters, yearned to hear a familiar voice, to catch a loving gaze. Thus, the dog emerged, not as a result of a single decision, but as a logical outcome of prolonged observations, mutual concessions, and steps toward each other. It is no coincidence that in many languages, the words for dog echo the words friend and guardian. Dogs became indispensable helpers to humans, but even earlier, they became their loyal friends. Their affection knows no bounds or conditions. Their love is quiet, but infinite and all-encompassing. And it all began when a wild animal dared to approach the fire, trusting humans. This ancient scene is repeated in our days when a small puppy trustingly lays its head on a person's lap. In each such tender touch, lives a memory, not always conscious, but no less real for it. A memory of the first tentative steps, of trust forged through fear and misunderstanding, of how darkness receded, giving way to the light of friendship and mutual understanding. The second chapter of the chronicle of the relationship between humans and dogs opens before us a fascinating picture of the transformation of these animals from wild hunters into devoted family members. Since entering human civilization, the dog has revolutionized, leaving an indelible mark on history. Its appearance marked not just an increase in the number of living creatures inhabiting near humans, but became a harbinger of a new era, an era of unbreakable partnership and mutual affection. At the dawn of these relationships, dogs performed vital functions, ensuring the safety of settlements, providing invaluable assistance in hunting, and vigilantly warning of threats. Thanks to their phenomenal hearing, keen sense of smell, heightened sensitivity, and remarkable ability to learn, they became indispensable allies for humans who were just beginning to master the complex laws of survival in the wild world. Even in those distant times, dogs displayed amazing empathy towards their owners. They learned to accurately interpret gestures, catch the tone of voice, and even recognize the slightest changes in a person's mood. The most remarkable thing was that they responded not only with actions, but also with their own emotions. When a person was injured, the dog stayed close, showing genuine devotion. When the person was angry, it would step aside, flattening its ears in submission. And when he was happy, it would start jumping around cheerfully, wagging its tail energetically, sharing his joy. This wasn't just the result of training, but evidence of a deep emotional bond that had formed between two different species. Dogs actively participated in hunts alongside humans, using their unique skills to detect tracks, pursue prey, and help capture it. With the emergence of certain breeds, humans were able to hunt alone, relying entirely on their four-legged companion. In the event of a successful hunt, the dog received its share of the spoils, not as an act of charity, but as a well-deserved reward for its contribution. In such moments, man and dog became equal partners, overcoming all difficulties side by side. Over the centuries, as humanity built cities, cultivated fields, and tamed wild beasts, the dog invariably remained a faithful companion. It vigilantly guarded dwellings, tirelessly watched over herds, and carefully protected the younger generation. Over time, the range of responsibilities entrusted to dogs expanded significantly. Some breeds, distinguished by incredible speed, endurance, and a keen sense of smell, became indispensable hunting assistants. Others, possessing an innate ability to control large groups of animals, evolved into skilled herders. Alongside them appeared guard dogs, reliably protecting property, sled dogs, transporting goods over long distances, and, of course, simply pets, whose presence made people's lives warmer and more joyful. In ancient legends and religious beliefs, dogs were assigned a special role. In ancient Egypt, Anubis, the jackal-headed god, guide of souls to the afterlife, was revered. In India, it was believed that dogs could connect the world of the living and the world of the dead. The Celts considered them protectors and guardians, and in the harsh lands of Siberia, in some northern tribes, dogs were given names comparable to human ones. For these peoples, the dog was not just an animal, but a true friend and confidant, a sentinel who often remained nearby until the end, when everyone else had left. Lonely hunters shared not only meager food with the dog, but also the warmth of the fire. Pack dogs helped transport heavy loads through impassable passes. Sled dogs led teams through snowstorms and blizzards, and sometimes the dog simply sat nearby, by the fire, listening attentively, watching, and keeping silent, sharing the person's loneliness. What is the special magic that binds humans and dogs? Perhaps the secret lies in the amazing ability of these animals to be a mirror of the soul. A dog is a creature endowed with the rare gift of reflecting our feelings and emotions. It unerringly picks up on mood, intuitively finds the right moment to approach and comfort, or delicately stays aside, not disturbing personal space. This amazing understanding, requiring no words, seems to establish an invisible connection between two hearts, and at some point, the person realizes that before them is not just a pet, but a being endowed with feelings and empathy. Over time, dogs have firmly entered our lives, becoming full members of the family. They are given names, they are confided in, joys and sorrows are shared with them. Their passing is perceived as an irreplaceable loss, causing genuine grief. In memory of four-legged friends, burials are created, monuments are erected, and their images are carefully stored in family albums. People gradually realized that next to them was not just a faithful helper, but a real personality, deserving of love and respect. In the modern world, this connection has become even deeper and more multifaceted. Dogs selflessly serve in police and rescue services, detecting explosives, providing invaluable assistance to people with disabilities, and finding victims under the rubble of destroyed buildings. There are even amazing dogs capable of sensing the approach of an epileptic seizure long before the person feels it themselves. How they manage to do this is not fully understood, but the heart tells us that it is their boundless devotion, their ability to listen, and of course, the love they generously give to their owners. Even the most ordinary dog, untrained in commands and not distinguished by noble origins, can become the center of the universe for a person. It can become a faithful companion for a lonely old man, a best friend for a child, or bring long-awaited laughter to a family where it hasn't been heard in a long time. Dogs seem to radiate light, filling our lives with warmth and joy. They don't ask for much in return, just the opportunity to be near, giving in return boundless acceptance, warmth, and the feeling that you are always expected home. Chapter 2 explores the initial steps towards friendship between humans and animals, detailing how primal fear gradually gave way to trust, fostering an extraordinary bond between different species. It is a story of friendship that seems inexplicable, yet is felt by anyone who has seen the devoted gaze of a dog reflecting their face. Chapter 2 is titled Cats and Grain and tells the story of the little guardians of barns. Part 1 is called When Silence Came to the House. If a dog is a loud, loyal, and tireless companion, always ready to follow in one's footsteps, a cat is more like a shadow, light, almost spectral. It makes no demands, does not beg, and does not impose its presence. It simply exists, silent, calm, and full of dignity. Surprisingly, the story of cats alongside humans began not with subjugation, but with simple observation, mutual interest, and, of course, benefit, albeit not immediately obvious. Many centuries ago, when people began to transition to a sedentary lifestyle, engaging in agriculture, the need arose to store grain harvests in barns, baskets, and clay storage facilities. Grain became the foundation of everything: food, the guarantee of survival, and hope for the future. However, along with this wealth came uninvited guests, eager to feast on it: mice and rats. These rodents would infiltrate the storage areas at night, creating noise, gnawing, and destroying the supplies upon which the well-being of the entire village depended. That is when the cat appeared. Wildcats, graceful, cautious, and swift, began to approach human settlements, drawn by the opportunity for easy prey. They were not interested in people, as dogs were, but in the rodents infesting the barns. Where mice appeared, cats soon followed. People quickly noticed that in the homes where a cat settled, traces of mouse activity disappeared. The nightly rustling ceased, the grain remained untouched, and the sacks stayed intact. And so humans made the decision to allow the cat to stay. They did not try to tame it, but simply observed it, almost as the cat observed them. Symbolically, the cat made the first step, acting cautiously and not approaching too closely. It was this independence that captured the human heart. The cat did not beg for food. It simply hunted, doing so elegantly, precisely, and almost imperceptibly. It leapt deftly, froze in anticipation, disappeared into the shadows, and suddenly reappeared, holding its prey in its teeth. Its movements resembled a dance, and its habits seemed like magic. Over time, cats won the hearts of people and became desired companions. Humanity appreciated not only their practical benefit in controlling rodents, but also their elegance and grace. Watching them groom themselves, their peaceful sleep as they curled into a cozy ball, and their instant reaction to the slightest rustle as they froze in anticipation of a leap became aesthetically pleasing. The cat seamlessly integrated into the home interior without creating unnecessary noise or requiring special care, yet bringing a unique atmosphere of coziness to the house. The cult of the cat reached its zenith in ancient Egypt, where it was considered a sacred animal. Harming a cat was considered a grave crime. Images of cats adorned frescoes, temples, and statuettes. They were given their own names, mummified, and buried with honors next to their owners. The goddess Bastet, one of the most revered in the Egyptian pantheon, appeared as a woman with a cat's head, symbolizing not only protection and fertility, but also the home hearth. It was believed that where there is a cat, there is a true home. Even after the decline of Egyptian civilization, the cat continued its triumphant march across the world. It appeared in Greece, Rome, and the East, where it was received in various ways. Some admired its independence and grace, while others treated it with caution, as the cat always retained an aura of mystery. It did not impose itself, did not follow in one's footsteps, but appeared when it deemed necessary. This very characteristic made it indispensable and desirable in human society. Unlike the dog, the cat embodies domestic comfort, protecting not so much the external boundaries as the innermost internal space of the dwelling. In every graceful movement, in the softness of its paws, one feels a pervasive tranquility. In the cat's gaze, one reads detachment, but also a lively concern for what is happening around it. It can spend hours on the windowsill, lost in thought, seemingly indifferently observing the world. However, should anything change in the house, it will be the first to notice the slightest alterations. The cat seems to radiate an energy of silence, filling the house not just with warmth, but with a deep internal rhythm, creating a sense of the gentle passage of time. In a room where a cat dozes, one instinctively wants to speak more softly, and under its watchful gaze, one feels under an invisible but calm observation. It seems as if something ancient, preserving the balance of the universe, is reflected in its eyes. And today, as it was millennia ago, the cat continues to live side by side with humans, remaining true to itself and its independence. It does not beg, but chooses. And if a cat has deigned to give you its attention, choosing you to share the warmth of your lap or fall asleep at your head, it signifies genuine closeness and trust. The cat, like a symbol that has traveled from temple sanctuaries to cozy windowsills, has long been surrounded by an aura of special reverence, unlike other domestic pets in which humans primarily saw practical use. The cat gradually acquired the status of an almost mythical creature. It has always maintained a certain detachment, independence, and that inner freedom that allures but cannot be controlled. Humans could shower the cat with care and food, but could never fully possess it. This animal does not submit. It makes a conscious choice. For centuries, in various cultures around the world, the cat has symbolized mystery, grace, and hidden power. The unpredictability of its nature has always stirred the human imagination. By day, it may seem the embodiment of serenity, immersed in quiet sleep, but with the onset of night, it transforms, demonstrating untamed energy in games and hunting, gazing into the darkness as if sensing the presence of invisible forces. This behavior gave people a special feeling that they were not just living with a pet, but a creature capable of perceiving unseen aspects of reality. However, in the dark times of medieval Europe, this perception took on a sinister hue. Cats, especially those whose fur was the color of night, became associated with witchcraft and dark forces. They were depicted as loyal companions of witches, spirits in animal form. This wave of superstition gave rise to unfounded fear, making cats innocent victims of human suspicion. They were persecuted, subjected to cruel reprisals, burned at the stake, and banished from settlements. But despite all the persecution, cats stubbornly returned, finding refuge again in homes, on farms, and in urban areas. The reason is simple. Mice, unlike people, were not subject to superstitions, and cats, in turn, faithfully followed their natural purpose to protect food supplies from rodents. A completely different attitude towards cats developed in Islamic culture, where they have long been treated with deep respect. Legends say that the Prophet Muhammad himself had tender feelings for these animals. Once, he even cut off part of his garment so as not to disturb a cat peacefully sleeping on it. Cats were allowed to freely visit mosques, and even today, in some Middle Eastern countries, you can see them calmly strolling through holy places without causing the slightest embarrassment to anyone. They have become an integral part of the local atmosphere, organically woven into the spiritual life of the people. In the land of the rising sun, the cat has long and firmly established itself as a symbol of good luck and prosperity. Almost everyone has probably encountered the charming figures of maneki neko, cats with a raised paw as if greeting passers-by. These cute creatures, which have become an integral part of the Japanese landscape, can be found everywhere, in shop windows, at the entrances to homes, and in office spaces. It is believed that maneki neko, with its presence, attracts well-being, material wealth, and joyful events into the lives of its owners. The Japanese deeply believe in the ability of cats to attract positive energy, and in samurai homes, these animals were often kept as protectors against evil spirits and nightmares. In many villages, especially in Eastern Europe, there was a belief that cats have a unique ability to sense the energy of a home. If an animal shows anxiety and cannot find a place for itself, it was perceived as a signal of an unfavorable environment. It was believed that a cat lying on the chest of a sick person brings relief, and its sudden departure from the house for no apparent reason was seen as a warning sign that should be heeded. Even the most inveterate skeptics admitted that cats possess a special intuition that cannot be explained by logic. However, perhaps the most valuable quality of a cat is its ability to bring peace and tranquility. Watching a sleeping cat, its even breathing, and its serene attitude to solitude, one can learn a lot. The cat teaches us to simply be, not to rush, not to succumb to anxieties, and to live in the present moment, enjoying the silence and depth of each instant. In the raging ocean of modern life, where disturbing news, a cacophony of sounds, and information overload become the norm, the cat appears as a quiet haven, an oasis of stability and serenity. Its invisible presence in the house does not need verbal confirmation. It can simply settle down nearby, delicately touch your hand with its paw, and sink into silence. In this silent act, there's more comfort than in a stream of empty phrases, because a cat doesn't utter banalities. It simply is. It's present. Whether it's a fluffy Angora or a sleek exotic shorthair, a ginger rogue, a smoky gray shadow, a coal-black phantom, or a spotted harlequin with emerald eyes, snow-white paws, and a long, gracefully curved tail. In each of these guises lies the same unchanging essence, imperturbable calm, attentive observation of the world, and deep inner harmony. It's no wonder that many people, tormented by anxious thoughts, plagued by loneliness, and suffering from insomnia, find true solace in the company of a cat. Even its purr isn't just a mechanical sound, it's a healing vibration, pure energy that soothes a troubled heart. Even those who don't have the good fortune to share a home with a cat feel its invisible presence, imprinted on the pages of books, on film, in the corners of memory. Surely each of us has experienced a moment when a cat, passing by, made us involuntarily freeze, or when, looking at it, we had the feeling that we were also being seen, that we weren't alone in this world, that there was a creature nearby that understood without words. Thus, the cat has evolved from an ordinary protector of grain stores and exterminator of rodents into a symbol of the hearth, independence, tenderness, and tranquility. Perhaps that's why, with the appearance of a cat, a dwelling ceases to be just a physical space, turning into a place of power, a refuge where one can find long-awaited peace. Chapter 3 is dedicated to feathered pets, from pigeons to parrots, and opens with a section entitled Wings Above, Wings Within. Since ancient times, the human gaze, directed towards the heavens, has seen what remained unattainable, the freedom of flight. Birds with their weightless bodies, strong wings, and ability to dissolve into the clouds evoked both admiration and envy in people. But at a certain point, man moved from simple observation to active interaction with these creatures, bringing celestial life closer. He allowed birds to settle nearby, and they accepted this offer. The history of bird domestication goes back to ancient times. Long before the cat took its place by the hearth, man was already showing interest in feathered inhabitants. Some species of birds were seen as useful. They destroyed insects, cleared fields, and their eggs and meat served as a source of food. However, there were also those that attracted attention with other qualities, their singing, bright colors, or unusual behavior. Thus, birds ceased to be merely objects of hunting, turning into creatures with whom it became possible to establish a special kind of connection. Among the birds honored to be domesticated among the first, pigeons occupy a special place. Researchers believe that their acquaintance with humans occurred more than 5 millennia ago in the lands of the Middle East, where Mesopotamia and Egypt became the cradle of civilization. Initially, the motive for domestication was the need for food, but soon people appreciated the amazing ability of these birds to unerringly find their way home, which opened up new horizons for their use. The unique gift of pigeons for spatial orientation still arouses scientific interest. These feathered travelers are able to overcome dozens and sometimes hundreds of kilometers to return to their native lands. In an era when mail, telegraph, and telephone did not yet exist, this feature made pigeons indispensable messengers. Thus, Pigeon Post was born, becoming the first system of operational communication at a distance in history. In ancient Egypt, Persia, and later in the Roman Empire, and even in China, pigeons performed the responsible mission of delivering messages between cities. Pigeons acquired special value in wartime. History has preserved many examples of their heroism. During the First World War, pigeons repeatedly saved the lives of soldiers, delivering important messages from the front lines. One such hero, a pigeon, was awarded for his bravery. Despite his injuries and the loss of an eye, he completed his task, delivering a message that prevented the death of an entire company of soldiers. Not only carrier pigeons enjoyed universal love, snow-white, bluish-gray, with iridescent plumage on their necks and melodious cooing, they attracted attention. They were kept in the homes of noble persons, royal palaces, and even monasteries. Dovacotes were erected with special care and love. These birds were treated with reverence and tenderness, seeing in them a symbol of peace, loyalty, and constancy. It's no wonder that even today, the pigeon remains one of the most recognizable symbols of goodness and hope. Along with pigeons, man turned his gaze to songbirds. In ancient China, several thousand years ago, nightingales, larks, and canaries enjoyed special honor. They were kept in cages not out of a desire to imprison them, but so that the music of life would always sound nearby. In the homes of the nobility and learned men, special bird rooms were created where one could enjoy the morning trills, meditate, and contemplate. Some bird species were even taught complex melodies, and if a bird began to repeat the music, it was considered a sign of harmony between man and nature. Birdsong became a real remedy for loneliness, especially in places where people could not often be in the lap of nature, in noisy cities, monastery walls, or impregnable fortresses. Live trills in the silence of the room became a window into another world, where trees turn green, streams murmur, and the sky seems closer. In antiquity, parrots were known in ancient Greece and Rome, where they were brought from the Far East. Plutarch described talking birds as an amazing curiosity, capable of repeating words and even laughing with people. Wavy and Amazon parrots were especially valued. They were not just treated as pets, but talked to, taught words, believing that they understood the essence of the conversation. It is known that Pliny the Elder himself had a parrot who, according to legend, could greet guests and utter short phrases in Latin. Birds have occupied a special place in the religious and spiritual life of various peoples. In Judaism and Islam, birdsong was perceived as a way of praising the world. In Christianity, the dove became a symbol of the Holy Spirit. In Buddhism, birds reminded of the transience of existence, flying in and flying away, like thoughts and life itself. For many shamanic cultures, a bird is a creature that connects earth and sky, body and spirit. Birds are also reflected in folk tales. In Russian folklore, it is the firebird, mysterious and blazing, carrying with it a miracle. In Japanese mythology, it is the phoenix rising from the ashes. In Indian myths, it is the parrot who knows the language of love. And always, this is an image of freedom, a transition between worlds, a symbol that the soul is capable of flight. Over time, man ceased to be content with the role of a simple observer of birds, turning into their interested interlocutor. Behind the seeming fragility and lightness of these creatures, a whole world opened up, intelligence, a rich palette of feelings, and individual character. The bird ceased to be just an element of decor, decorating the dwelling, and appeared as a living being with a soul. One could share thoughts with her, one could listen to her, and, most surprisingly, she responded to this attention. If the singing of domestic birds reminded man of the beauty of nature, of the freshness of the morning breeze and melodies born without musical instruments, then the appearance of parrots was a real revelation. These creatures possessed the gift of speech, and although their speech was not meaningful in the full sense of the word, man for the first time saw in a bird not only a visual image or a set of sounds, but also a potential companion for communication. The first talking parrots arrived in Europe from the distant lands of India and Indochina. Already in the 5th century BC, Indian priests taught the Jaco and Amazon parrots to pronounce simple mantras. It was believed that the repetition of sacred syllables by the bird enhanced the energy of prayer. These parrots were so valuable that they were kept exclusively in temples or in the homes of rulers. They simultaneously symbolized wealth and acted as intermediaries between the world of people and the spiritual world. In ancient Rome, parrots became an exotic curiosity, available only to noble persons. Cages were made for them from ivory. They were taught to pronounce the names of family members and even whole phrases. Some particularly gifted individuals could memorize and reproduce up to 300 words. It is amazing how parrots demonstrate not simple copying of sounds, but the meaningful use of learned phrases depending on the context. They greet the owner upon his appearance, address him by name, express their emotions, from delight to displeasure. This creates the appearance of genuine communication, and for people living in solitude, especially the elderly, a parrot becomes not just a pet, but a real companion. Modern psychiatrists confirm that elderly people who live with parrots experience a decrease in anxiety and depressive states. Perhaps the reason is not only in the sounds that the bird makes, but also in its very nature. She is both near and free, sits on the shoulder but can fly away at any moment, repeats words but always pronounces them in her own way. There is something mysterious in her gaze, as if she knows more about a person than she should. In the 19th century, during the era of active trade of colonial powers with exotic countries, parrots spread throughout the world. They were brought from South America, Africa, and Australia. Each species differed in its unique characteristics. Aras, admired with their impressive size and bright color, cockatoos attracted with a friendly disposition and loud cries, and Amazons amazed with exceptional learning abilities. People began to build a variety of relationships with these birds. Some trained them, teaching them to dance, bow, and fetch objects. In old circuses, one could see acts where parrots controlled miniature carriages or even played chess. Others simply had long conversations with them, as with a close friend, not expecting an answer, but not feeling lonely either. The parrot became someone who knows how to listen, who repeats what is said, and thereby brings comfort. In various cultures, parrots were almost mystically revered. In the East, these creatures were considered symbols of love and passion. Their feathers were carefully kept as amulets, and live parrots were given as gifts to newlyweds, so that they would become harbingers of joy and unquenchable passion in their union. Legends of India tell of a parrot who delivered words to the goddess of love that could melt even the most impregnable heart. In South America, it was believed that these birds could hear people's dreams and repeat them at dawn if one listened carefully. However, it was not only parrots that won people's hearts and became their domestic companions. In the era of the European Enlightenment, the canary came into fashion, whose singing was considered a model of nobility and refinement. Some homes kept entire ensembles of 5 or 6 canaries, teaching them to sing harmoniously. Special teachers dedicated long hours to teaching the birds complex melodies. It was believed that in homes where peace and harmony reigned, canaries sang especially beautifully, as if sensing the atmosphere of tranquility. Thus, the idea was born that birds have the ability to sense the energy of a home, like us, becoming part of its internal rhythm. Over time, birds took a special place in the home. Some kept them in cages on windowsills, like living amulets, others in spacious aviaries resembling old greenhouses. Some gave their pets complete freedom, allowing them to move freely around the house. In any case, the bird became a full member of the family. Her voice sounded in the morning, her movements enlivened the silence, and her presence helped to cope with loneliness. There are many stories when birds saved a person not by heroic deeds, but by the very fact of their presence nearby. A small parrot warming a sick child with its warmth all night, a canary whose ringing voice brought joy back to a widow languishing in an empty apartment, a pigeon arriving daily at the window at the same time and becoming a symbol of fidelity for a lonely person. A bird so small and fragile turned out to be stronger than loneliness. And today, as many centuries ago, birds continue to live side by side with people. They delight us with their singing, repeat words, wave their wings, and doze on their perch. They teach us to hear and listen, reminding us that in each of us there is a particle of the sky, thin, elusive, but full of life, which needs not a cage, but understanding, silence, and a kind look. Small creatures, distinguished by their gentle disposition, quiet behavior, soft paws, and large expressive eyes, at first glance seem less significant compared to dogs, cats, or horses. However, these modest animals have an amazing ability. They know how to find their way to the most secret corners of the human soul. Their presence is almost imperceptible. They do not need daily walks and do not disturb the silence with loud barking or meowing. It is these qualities that attract people's hearts to them. Their silence gives a sense of comfort. Miniature sizes inspire a sense of security, and their very presence fills the house with tenderness. Rodents are among the oldest inhabitants of our planet who have lived side by side with humans since ancient times. And if in former times they were perceived mainly as pests, responsible for spoiling food supplies, destroying barns, and spreading dangerous diseases, then over time the attitude towards them has undergone significant changes. Man has learned to see in these small creatures something more than just a source of trouble, especially when he learned to look them in the eye. The history of taming hamsters, for example, began only in the 20th century, which by historical standards happened quite recently. In 1930, a female Syrian hamster was discovered in Syria along with her offspring. Scientists delivered the find to Jerusalem and then to Europe. Almost all the domestic hamsters that can be found today in pet stores around the world are descendants of that Syrian line. This became a kind of sensation. An animal was found that is easily tamed, has a compact size, and a bright character, ideal for keeping in a city apartment. Children instantly fell in love with these fluffy lumps. A hamster is not just a soft toy, but an independent creature with its own individual habits, daily routine, and the need for personal space. In the quiet of the night, a captivating spectacle unfolds. A tiny worker diligently builds its home, carefully replenishes its food stores, and tirelessly explores its surroundings. This nocturnal creature possesses an amazing ability to recognize its owner's voice, seemingly replicating the life of an entire civilization in miniature, which is enjoyed by many nature enthusiasts. Another popular member of the rodent world is the guinea pig, whose name is, at first glance, misleading. Contrary to popular belief, these adorable creatures have nothing to do with the sea or pigs. Their historical homeland is the majestic Andes Mountains, stretching across modern-day Peru and Bolivia. More than 3,000 years ago, the ancient Incas began raising guinea pigs, initially for gastronomic purposes. Over time, however, these animals acquired not only practical, but also ritualistic and symbolic significance. In some remote Andean settlements, an ancient custom still exists. When a person falls ill, a guinea pig is brought to them, believed to be capable of absorbing the ailment. After this ritual is performed, the animal is released in the hope that the disease will go away with it. In the 15th century, guinea pigs first arrived in Europe, where they quickly won the hearts of the people of Spain, Holland, and England. Queen Elizabeth I herself kept a guinea pig at court as an exotic pet. Over time, these animals became a symbol of domestic warmth and comfort. Guinea pigs are remarkably peaceful and affectionate creatures that do not show aggression, do not try to escape, and happily come to your hands, especially if they feel warmth and care. Their gentle snorting, quiet squeaking, and soft, cloud-like fur create the feeling of a living, breathing, and understanding blanket nearby. Rats are a striking example of triumph over entrenched stereotypes. For centuries, they have evoked fear and contempt, been considered carriers of disease, harbingers of misfortune, and associated with death. However, in the 19th century, the first enthusiasts appeared who appreciated decorative rats. And it turned out that these creatures are among the most intelligent and devoted pets. Domestic rats have an amazing ability to memorize complex routes, distinguish people's voices, and follow commands. They learn easily, can bring small objects, respond to their name, and even show affection to their owner. Some owners share stories of how their rats joyfully greet them after work, settle on their shoulder, or hide behind their collar, as if striving to be as close as possible to warmth and care. Their intelligence, albeit in miniature, can be compared to that of a dog, and their affection and devotion resemble the relationship of a younger sibling. No less touching is the story of rabbits, animals that were domesticated by humans long before. The first domesticated rabbits appeared in France in the Middle Ages. Monks began to breed them in monastery gardens, initially as a source of meat, but soon discovered other qualities in them. Rabbits turned out to be surprisingly gentle and peaceful. Their soft character, trust, and need for affection made them desirable inhabitants of gardens, houses, and even the rooms of noble persons. Today, decorative rabbits are not just fluffy creatures with long ears, they are true companions. They move freely around the house, play, jump, hide in secluded corners, and express their emotions. They know how to rejoice, jumping and running in circles. They know how to be bored, sitting quietly at their feet. And they know how to love in their own way, without words. All these little pets, hamsters, guinea pigs, rats, and rabbits are especially dear to children. For a child, this is the first experience of caring, communicating, and observing life. But it is not only children who find comfort in them. Adults, tired of the hustle and bustle of the big world, find in these small animals the very peace and quiet that they so lack. In their eyes is sincerity, in their touch is trust, in their presence is warmth. Miniature pets, like inhabitants of a parallel dimension, share our roof, but live by their own laws. They do not need long walks, do not fill the house with barking, and do not rush headlong. However, their presence is palpable. Their life flows in its own channel, subject to its own rhythms and rules. And the more closely a person looks into this microscopic universe, the more clearly he realizes that within each such creature lies an entire world. For young souls, a small pet often becomes the first true companion. It is with a hamster or rabbit that the comprehension of responsibility begins, to feed, to clean, to caress, to talk heart to heart. Children entrust them with their innermost secrets, learn sensitivity and attentiveness, receiving in return silent but sincere attention. Even the tiniest creature is able to respond to a voice, to a gentle touch, to the warmth of a human hand. And this response becomes a subtle yet significant element in the formation of personality. But also, for adults, especially those who are lonely, elderly, or weary from the storms of emotions, such pets become a source of peace and inner harmony. In a world full of hustle and bustle, a small furry creature serves as a reminder of a different rhythm of life. A rhythm where you can slow down, sit next to them, listen to how the guinea pig leisurely nibbles on hay, how the hamster enthusiastically digs in sawdust, how the rabbit washes and settles down to rest in a secluded corner. Often, pet owners claim that their pets have an amazing ability to sense their emotional state. And indeed, our smaller brethren, even the most miniature ones, often find themselves nearby in moments of emotional turmoil. When a person especially craves support, they settle nearby, cuddling quietly, without unnecessary words, but with amazing sensitivity, and the burden on the heart becomes lighter. There are touching cases when such pets helped people overcome the most difficult life trials. One woman who had lost her husband could not find the strength to leave the house for a long time. Friends, concerned about her condition, gave her a guinea pig, and as if by magic, for the first time in many days, she spoke, began to take care of the little creature, felt that there was someone alive nearby, someone who needed her attention. This small lump of life brought her back to reality, not with words, but with the very fact of its existence. Another example is the story of an elderly man whose children placed him in a nursing home. Plunged into despondency, he remained silent and refused to communicate with others. The situation changed when one of the employees brought him a rat. The little animal settled on his shoulder, hid in his sleeve, peered curiously into his face, and the old man spoke, first with the rat and then with other people. Life gradually began to return to his gray, everyday life. Even in families where there is well-being, where there is wealth, health, and care, the appearance of a small pet can transform the atmosphere. There is more warmth and tenderness in the house. Unnecessary fuss disappears. Time appears when all family members simply sit next to each other, admiring how a rabbit eagerly gnaws on a carrot or how a rat carefully washes its face. And in this shared silence, something important is born, a sense of unity, a feeling of a real home. There is another valuable gift that small pets bring into our lives, the feeling of life as a continuous process. They are born, grow, live, and unfortunately pass away. Their life is shorter than human life, and that is why it is perceived more acutely, felt more deeply. People who have experienced the loss of a beloved small pet often say, "I understood what it means to be there until the very end." This is an important, albeit sad, but very profound lesson. A lesson of love, acceptance, and gratitude. And it is taught by a creature that weighs less than a kilogram, that fits in the palm of your hand, that does not utter a word, but knows how to express everything that is most important. Small pets are a living reminder that true value does not always shout about itself, that care can be quiet and unobtrusive, that attachment does not require loud words, that friendship can exist in this format. You are near, I am near, and that is enough. They spend a short period of time with us, sometimes only 2 or 3 years, but memories of them remain with us for many years. Their soft paws leave a mark in our hearts. Their unique character is reflected in our habits. Their silent presence forever settles in our souls. With the transition to a settled way of life, when people began to cultivate land and build permanent dwellings, there was an urgent need for reliable helpers. They needed not just companions like dogs or cats, but mighty, tireless, and patient allies, capable of pulling a plow, transporting heavy loads, and serving as support in long journeys. And such faithful companions became large domestic animals: horses, cows, goats, and donkeys. Without their invaluable help, it is impossible to imagine the development of human civilization. The horse is perhaps one of the most noble and devoted animals to humans. Its domestication occurred about 6,000 years ago, presumably in the vast steppes of modern Ukraine, Kazakhstan, or the southern regions of Russia. Initially, the horse was used as a source of meat and milk, but soon people realized its enormous potential. It became not just an animal, but a real engine of progress, a faithful partner, a companion in travel, hunting, military campaigns, and everyday life. The horse fundamentally changed the course of history. Thanks to it, humans were able to significantly increase the speed of movement, overcome vast distances, and transport heavy loads, which contributed to the development of trade and the establishment of links between different peoples, caravans, armies, and embassies. All this was set in motion by the power of the horse. Her power allowed for tilling the land. Her endurance enabled crossing endless deserts, and her loyalty allowed her to return home even without a rider's guidance. The horse possessed an astonishing ability to remember the way, sense her master's mood, and understand when to stand still and when to gallop at full speed. In various cultures around the world, the horse was perceived as more than just a means of transportation or a draft animal. She became an extension of the human being, a faithful companion sharing life's journey. This was especially evident among nomadic peoples such as the Mongols, Kazakhs, Kalmyks, and Tuvans. For them, the horse was a source of food, warmth, and even inspiration for creating music. Horsehair was used to make strings for musical instruments, hides were used to sew warm clothing, and milk was used to prepare kumis, a valuable and nutritious beverage. From a very early age, a child received a small pony, and the loss of a horse was felt as the loss of a close family member. In European castles, horses acquired the status of symbols of knighthood, nobility, and extraordinary strength. Often, their upkeep was better than that of the servants. Every self-respecting rider had a personal steed, distinguished by its temperament, name, and preferences. Some knights swore oaths of allegiance not only before God, but also before their warhorse, seeing in him a loyal comrade and brother in arms. However, the horse is not only a symbol of movement and power, but also an embodiment of silence and a deep connection with nature. In modern therapeutic practices, hippotherapy is increasingly used, a rehabilitation method based on interaction with horses, promoting the restoration of mental balance. The soft gait, rhythmic breathing, the warmth of the large body, the opportunity to touch the power that does not frighten but soothes. All this has a healing effect. Alongside horses, other large animals played an important role in human life, without which survival would have been impossible. Cows and goats. Their domestication occurred even earlier, about 10,000 years ago. Goats were first domesticated in the Middle East, followed by cows, presumably in India and Anatolia. Both types of animals became indispensable sources of milk, meat, hides, manure, and warmth. The cow became a symbol of fertility and abundance. In India, these animals are revered as sacred, allowing them to move freely through the streets, as they are believed to carry the energy of life. Milk produced by the cow is considered pure and holy. Each cow had its own name, was spoken to, and cared for as a member of the family. In Europe, peasants built their houses in such a way that the heat from the cowshed warmed the living quarters during the cold winter months. The goat, more agile, curious, and independent, was ideally suited for keeping in mountainous areas. Its milk is easier to digest, and its wool has excellent thermal insulation properties. In the villages of the Caucasus, Central Asia, and the Balkans, goats were so attached to their owners that they behaved almost like domestic dogs, following them everywhere, responding to their voice, and returning home on their own. Each goat had its own unique character, and the owners knew that stubborn animals should be approached not with scolding, but with affection and persuasion. These animals lived not just alongside humans, they were part of their lives, defining their rhythm. Their sounds, mooing, bleating, the clatter of hooves, became a familiar backdrop to everyday life. Their presence guaranteed warmth, food, and shelter. Even the smells of hay, fresh milk, and wool are strongly associated with the image of true village life, pure, simple, and authentic. Large animals do not show affection like cats, nor do they look up to humans like dogs. They are equal partners. They stand side by side, breathe the same air, and bear burdens together with humans. And this cultivates in humans not a sense of tenderness, but a deep respect, calm, stable, and providing support in life. Large representatives of the fauna rarely become full-fledged companions in the usual sense, not taking up space on sofas or sharing a bed with humans. However, for thousands of years, they have accompanied people, forming strong bonds and leaving an indelible mark on the soul. Man learned from these majestic creatures patience, self-control, and unpretentious strength, mastering the art of simply being present. In many cultures, the relationship with horses, cows, and goats went beyond utilitarian use. Conversations were held with these animals, addressing them as intelligent beings capable of understanding not only words, but also intonations, moods, and the energy of the speaker. Anger, irritation, and shouting were considered counterproductive, giving way to respect and tranquility. Horses, in particular, showed a special sensitivity to the human voice. Harsh sounds caused tension, while soft speech soothed and encouraged interaction. A skilled rider and a caring owner achieved a deep understanding with their horse, communicating without words, sensing the slightest movements, breaths, and head turns. This unique synchronicity between human and horse gradually acquired an almost sacred meaning. In some cultures, before embarking on a journey, the rider would not rush to mount, but would gently stroke the horse's withers, pressing their forehead against it as if asking permission for the upcoming journey. Before a battle or a long march, gratitude was expressed to the animal in advance. In rural life, a cow was not just a source of milk, but a true provider for the family. People recognized its role in ensuring well-being comparable to maternal care. They knew that premature weaning of calves could cause the cow to grieve and reduce milk yield. They understood that a frightened animal needed calm accompaniment to the pasture, to the sounds of a soothing song and a treat of grass from their hands. In response, the cow would return with a full udder, radiating peace and goodwill. In old Russian villages, housewives addressed their cows with affectionate words, "My milky one, my horned one, my white one," expressing their love and gratitude. Names for livestock were chosen not just randomly, but with special reverence and meaning. Zorka, Dawn, Milasha, Sweetie, Nezhka, Gentle. These affectionate names were passed down from generation to generation, carefully recorded in family notebooks. The death of a cow became a real tragedy, and she was mourned like a close relative. Different, but no less touching, relationships were established with goats. These animals were distinguished by their restless disposition, willfulness, and independence. Each goat had its own favorite route, unique character, and own perception of the world, and it was for these qualities that they were so valued. In some families, a goat felt so free that it could independently climb onto the porch and patiently wait at the door, demanding affection and attention. Goats easily found common ground with children, happily participating in their games and frolicking in the yard. Goat's milk was considered a valuable product, given to the sick and weakened, believing in its healing properties. In Bulgaria and the Caucasus, a goat was often brought into the house during festive celebrations, seeing it as a symbol of prosperity and progress. Rituals associated with large animals were common throughout the world. In Scandinavian countries, for example, the presence of a horse in the house was considered a harbinger of good luck. An image of this noble animal was carved from wood and placed in the nursery, endowing it with protective properties. In Japan, for the new year, usagi, charming little goats, were drawn holding a twig in their teeth, which symbolized prosperity and well-being. In Kazakhstan, horse meat was eaten only on special occasions, and before the meal, words of gratitude were always offered to the horse for its faithful service. This act of reverence was far more important than the food itself. The exceptional strength of the bonds connecting humans with animals was especially evident during times of severe trials. In times of war, drought, and natural disasters, people often shared their last supplies of water with cows, showed greater care for horses, protecting them from the cold than for themselves. And the animals repaid humans with selfless devotion. There are known cases when horses, having survived evacuation with their owners, found their way home, returning to their native places. Cows found their former courtyards, even if only ruins remained of the village. Goats came to people in moments of grief and mental distress, standing nearby, as if wanting to say, "I'm here, everything will be all right." In the modern world, the significance of these animals has changed. Today, it is rare to see a horse in the yard, let alone a cow or a goat. However, the memory of them lives on, rooted not only in traditions and folklore, but also in the very core of human attitude to existence: respect, care, patience. It is these qualities that we once adopted from the animals that were next to us, shared our breath, helped to bear the burden of life. And every time we see the image of a horse on an artist's canvas, or hear the mooing of a cow coming from a distant village, or read a fairy tale about a little goat, warmth awakens in the soul, because these are not just images. These are living echoes of humanity's memories of strength, that does not oppress, of love that demands nothing in return, of a reliable shoulder to lean on. Ask yourself, what is the real reason people get pets? In the modern world, where comfort and technology reign supreme, the motives for keeping animals go far beyond utilitarian goals, such as obtaining milk, wool, or use in hunting. What makes a person, surrounded by the conveniences of civilization, bring into their home a small creature that requires care and attention? The answer lies in the unique ability of animals to give a person something that cannot always be found in human relationships. A pet becomes the embodiment of quiet, unconditional love. Animals don't care about your profession, don't judge your appearance, and don't demand constant reports. Their affection either exists or it doesn't. And if it does, it becomes eternal. That's why pets are there for you during life's most difficult moments, whether it's a loss, a move, or loneliness. They know how to be there in silence without creating awkwardness, exerting pressure, or making demands. Many animals have an amazing ability to sense their owner's mood. Dogs settle down nearby when a person is sad. Cats quietly enter the room and sit closer without being intrusive. Even rats choose the hand that trembles with excitement. Parrots fall silent when the silence in the house becomes unbearable. These actions are not just instincts, they are genuine responses and empathy. Psychologists are increasingly talking about the emotional resonance that arises between a person and their pet. Studies show that interacting with a beloved animal helps lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and increase oxytocin levels, the hormone of trust and closeness. In the presence of an animal, a person finds inner peace, which is especially valuable in today's world, full of anxieties and information overload. A pet becomes a kind of personal refuge, a place where you can be yourself, say aloud what you don't dare to confide in others, talk without expecting an answer, but knowing that you will still be heard. It's an opportunity to touch a living creature without thinking about the correctness of your actions. Just being there, breathing in unison, it's not a replacement for human relationships, but a different level of connection. Animals often become part of everyday rituals. The cat that comes every morning at exactly 6:40 to settle down near the owner's head. The dog patiently waiting at the door while you brush your teeth. The guinea pig making joyful sounds when the light is turned on in the room. These small but consistent moments create a sense of rhythm and stability, reminding you that the day is going according to plan, that someone is waiting for your attention, and you are not dissolving into the flow of things. A pet can become a living memory of the past. Everyone has their own image, the dog from childhood, the cat that lived with grandma in the village, the rabbit that lived in a box on the balcony. Even after years, these animals remain in memory. We remember how we fed them from our hands, how they slept, how they looked with their devoted eyes. And we understand that it was not just a part of life, but life in its purest, warmest, and most trusting form. Animals teach us to be better, not through moral lessons, but through feelings. They teach care, patience, acceptance, and forgiveness. They teach us to be silent when words are unnecessary, and to be there not to fix, but to support. Perhaps that is why people choose to live with animals again and again, not out of convenience, but out of a deep need to be needed, understood, and accepted as you are, without words. Simply through presence, through a paw placed on your knee, through a look full of warmth, through breath that matches yours. As a person enters adulthood, their need for support becomes more intimate and hidden. They seek it not in loud declarations and instructions, but in silent presence. In this context, pets prove to be exceptional companions. They don't have medical knowledge, don't tire you with lectures, and don't bother you with questions, but their presence has a remarkable healing effect. Simply knowing they are near can ease emotional pain and restore joy to life. Modern society is increasingly aware of the healing power of animals, recognizing their role in restoring both physical, and mental health. Animal-assisted therapy, or treatment through interaction with animals, is becoming more popular. One of the most well-known areas is canine therapy, in which dogs act as therapists. They provide invaluable assistance to children with autism, elderly people with dementia, and those who have experienced a severe loss. The secret of their success lies not in special skills, but in their unconditional love and constant support. Cats, in turn, have the ability to lower blood pressure, normalize heart rate, and improve sleep quality. And this is not just a beautiful metaphor, but a scientifically proven fact. The frequency of a cat's purring, approximately 25 hertz, has a calming effect on the human nervous system. People living with cats are less likely to suffer from anxiety disorders and insomnia. Although cats do not show exuberant joy when they meet you like dogs, their strength lies in something else. They always know exactly where they need to be, at your feet, on your chest, or just nearby, providing support at the right moment. Birds, especially songbirds, are also used in therapy, helping to restore a sense of time and inner rhythm. Their singing not only pleases the ear, but also directs attention inward, promoting concentration. Some meditation practices recommend using birdsong as a natural anchor for the mind rather than striving for complete silence. Interaction with parrots can stimulate speech in people who have suffered a stroke. Patients who have difficulty communicating with people begin to repeat words after the bird, which becomes the first step towards restoring speech skills. In the practice of helping children who have experienced trauma, suffer from anxiety disorders, or attention deficit disorder, rabbits, guinea pigs, and rats become invaluable helpers. Their miniature size, pleasant softness, and predictable behavior create a sense of security and comfort. A child who has difficulty establishing trusting relationships with adults often finds solace and understanding in these furry creatures, sharing their experiences with them, showing care and affection, thereby gradually restoring faith in the world around them. However, the role of animals is not limited to therapeutic effects. They serve as guides to the inner world of man. You can often hear, "My dog reflects my mood," or "The cat leaves when I'm angry and comes back when I calm down." And indeed, animals have an amazing ability to intuitively grasp our emotional state, providing us with an honest and instant reflection of ourselves, without embellishment or criticism. For people living alone, animals become a vital connection to reality. An elderly person may wake up in the morning not because of planned activities, but because of the hungry meowing of a cat. They open the window to let a bird out or go for a walk with a dog. The animal unobtrusively brings rhythm and meaning into a person's life, preventing them from completely withdrawing into themselves and losing touch with the outside world. In addition, animals can become an integral part of spiritual practice. It is no coincidence that Buddhist monks keep cats, believing that these animals are able to feel subtle energies and harmonize space. In some Tibetan monasteries, feeding dogs at certain hours is part of a ritual of mercy. In the Sufi tradition, there is a belief that every living creature that appears in the house brings with it something special intended specifically for that owner, whether it be a test, support, or lesson. Sometimes a pet appears in a person's life at a turning point, as if sent from above to this house and to this person. And the person feels that this is not just a coincidence, but a fateful meeting. In moments when we stroke soft fur, listen to breathing, and watch a pet doze on our lap, we feel at home, not only in the physical sense, but also on a deep spiritual level, feeling that we are not alone, that we are heard and appreciated. Any story comes to an end sooner or later, even the most touching one, even the one that originated with a fleeting glance, a gentle touch, or a chance encounter. Animals appear in our lives in different ways. Some are found through an advertisement, some find a home in a shelter, and some simply come out of a shady bush and decide to stay forever, but each of them leaves an indelible mark on the human heart. And perhaps that is why the most painful moment in a relationship with a pet is parting. People live longer, they stay in this world, and animals leave unnoticed, as if dissolving into the air, sometimes in a quiet sleep, sometimes in the arms of a beloved owner, sometimes with a last look that is etched in memory forever. And this circumstance does not weaken the attachment. On the contrary, the awareness of the brevity of their stay nearby makes us love them even more, selflessly, without a shadow of a doubt, giving our whole soul. People cherish every moment spent together. They have conversations with them, without even expecting an answer. They forgive them everything, broken dishes, mischievous scratches, and minor pranks. Leaving this world, they take with them nothing but a piece of the human soul. But in this sorrow, strangely enough, there is light, because memories of pets do not fade over time. They live in the heart, warming it with warmth. We continue to feel their invisible presence in the silence of the morning, in the play of shadows on the walls, as if they are still here, next to us. A faint smile appears at the corners of the lips when their funny habits and unique mannerisms come to mind. We sometimes mechanically call other pets by their names, like an echo of a former attachment. We carefully store photos, old toys, bowls filled with memories, because true love knows no death. It only transforms into priceless memories. There's a belief that after their earthly lives, our four-legged friends go to a special, blessed place, green pastures where there is no pain or suffering, where they regain their youth and carefree spirit, where they patiently await our reunion, just as they once waited by the door for us to come home from work. Perhaps it's just a beautiful fairy tale, but who knows? Maybe this magical meadow exists not somewhere out there, but deep within our hearts, in the most cherished corner of our souls, where the purest and most sincere feelings are kept. After all, animals teach us lessons that are rarely found in human society. They teach unconditional love and acceptance, the ability to be there simply because, without any demands or expectations, just because you exist, just because you matter, just because you are you. And even when they leave us, even when they are no longer around, they don't leave behind a gaping void, but give us a warm, eternal, subtle, yet reliable and unwavering feeling. Now that we've journeyed together, from the first tamed wolves by the fire to the soft steps of a domestic rabbit on the floor, from the melodic trills of birds outside the window to the mighty shoulder of a horse shrouded in morning mist, let's pause for a moment and immerse ourselves in silence. Remember your first pet, or the one who was with you the longest, or the one who may not yet have appeared in your life, but is already somewhere close, on their way to you. Imagine their gaze, quiet, calm, full of attention that demands nothing in return. Every animal that has shared our lives has left an indelible mark on our souls, making us softer, kinder, more human. We learned patience and compassion, learned to understand moods without words, learned to look into eyes and not turn away. We lived side by side and never tired of this companionship. We experienced losses, but still kept the warmth of memories in our hearts. Animals taught us to love not for achievements and merits, but simply because, unconditionally and selflessly. Just to be there, just to greet, just to wait, just to forgive. And perhaps this is the main lesson. Pets help us unlock the best human qualities within ourselves, teaching us to be genuine, calm, warm, kind. They give us the opportunity to feel better, not because we deserve it, but because they are who they are. May everyone who is listening to these words remember the one who once curled up at their feet, nestled on a pillow, joyfully ran to the door, affectionately meowed, wagged their tail happily, trustingly blinked, amusingly squeaked, or barely audibly rustled their feathers in the air. May this memory become not a source of pain, but a ray of light, warm as the sun breaking through thick fur, as a gentle breath in the palm of your hand, as a gaze in which you felt at home. Animals may lack the gift of speech, but they have keen hearing. They do not leave written records, but their images are imprinted in our memories for years to come. Perhaps they do not know tears, but they forever hold a special place in our hearts. Let us express our gratitude to them, gratitude for their existence, for their presence in our lives, for the transformative influence they have on us. As the day comes to an end, I wish you a peaceful night. May everyone's sleep be serene and light. May there be someone close by, radiating warmth and sincerity, even in dreams. And may love not leave us, for it is patient and able to wait, even in the deepest silence.